Thought I'd shoot a short video here showing the replacement of my rear brake caliper hardware on this 1975 Honda Gold Wing. I've already stripped and repainted the caliper parts. They were real rough. Didn't think it was really worth documenting that. I used paint specifically made for calipers, and this seems to hold up pretty well. And I'm pretty happy with how the finish came out. Not perfect, it's not factory, but works for me. Spent a bunch of time getting the bores of the caliper here for the pistons nice and clean. Used a Dremel to get the groove cleaned out. Used a wire brush, just a mini wire brush in that groove. Get all dried up brake fluid out of there. It turns into a white crusty powder. So those grooves are nice and clean now. And everything else I just kind of cleaned up. I painted this cover for the top. There's a plastic window here, or window cover for inspection, and it was missing from this bike. So at some point I'll get on eBay, see if I can source a new one. But everything else is here. Bolts to hold the two halves of the caliper together, the bolt for mounting it to the swing arm of the bike so it doesn't rotate, slider pins. They were pretty rusty, got them nice and clean. I'm a big fan of Evapor-Rust or the Rust-Oleum Rust Dissolver. They both, in my opinion, work equally well. And then little bolt here to hold this cover in place, and then the spring for the brake pads. I'm going to just use the existing brake pads that were on the bike. There's still plenty of meat on them. I cleaned them up. These shims are not perfect, but they'll serve their purpose. And I don't know, maybe someday I'll get online and find some replacements, but once they're installed, you don't see them, and they do their job. I'm a big fan of BrakeCrafters rebuild kits. This will be the fourth bike that I've restored the brakes on in terms of Gold Wings. And I used a set on a Kawasaki GL1000 police bike a couple of years ago. And BrakeCrafters parts are very nice. I have zero complaints about them. Comes with all the parts you would need. This bike, both of the pistons had some damage. Not real bad, but enough that I did not want to reuse these and risk seals taking anywhere and then either getting air in the system or having leaks. So I bought their Mega kit for front and rear, which comes with all new pistons, new seals, new dust boots, comes with a new bleeder, comes with new crush washers and the cap for the bleeder, and they even give you a nice little container of grease that works well. And even though there's hardly anything in here, it is way more than enough. You could probably do 3 or 4 of these calipers with the amount of grease in one of these. So I appreciate how good they are with their parts and their support when I've needed them. This isn't a plug or anything, I'm just sharing the word. BrakeCrafters, they've been really good to me when I've needed anything. So let's see what we can do here. Try to do this without my arms getting in the way too much, but this will be old news to many people that have done caliper rebuilds. Maybe this will be helpful to someone who might not have done it before. But you do have a few parts here. You've got the seal that's going to go in that groove inside the caliper halves. You got the dust boot that goes around it with this metal ring to hold it in place. And then the edge of it catches the edge that's machined into the piston and keeps things from getting rusty. That's what causes the old pistons to get corrosion here and forms these high spots, low spots. This almost looks like someone grabbed it with channel locks, I don't know, but it's not smooth. So we want to keep all that protected. This caliper has this O-ring, not an O-ring, it's a rubber gasket, I guess, that keeps both halves where they mate together from leaking. So it goes there and just kind of gets pinched in there. I don't know that you can get these anymore. I have not seen them for sale. Maybe they're out there. So I've been grateful that these have held up for me. And this one I just soaked in new brake fluid for a bit. It's nice and soft still, 50 years old. The white crusty old brake fluid came off of it. So very helpful to be able to reuse these, because I'm not sure where you would find another one. So these pistons, they wrap them up nicely, keep them from getting dinged around and shipping. And this caliper, obviously, one per side. Brake fluid presses on the back, and this front side presses on your brake pad, which obviously squeezes the rotor. So we're going to be putting both of those in, and we're going to be using all these parts that are in these small baggies, and we'll be using this grease. I've done this before just using brake fluid to lube things, and that works fine. This grease works real well though, and what I like to do is just take a little bit, get these things nice and greased up, and not much to it. You just fit it into the groove here. That simple. It just pops in there. That's what keeps your fluid in and allows you to build pressure. And I might as well go ahead and do the other one. Same deal here. You want to be careful with it. You don't want to tear that rubber up or anything, but it goes in real easily. No challenges there. As for the pistons, all they're going to do is slide in. I'll put a little bit of this grease around this guy. And all we're looking to do is help it slide in there. That's simple. There we go. So it's not going to slide real easy, but it should not stick the way your old one probably did. The old ones are a nightmare to get out. I used compressed air on these, and that's always exciting when they pop loose. I once had a finger get pinched pretty bad when it popped loose, so I've learned to shove a rag in there to capture it rather than my finger getting in the way. So I won't do that again. These boots kind of have a lip that they go in on both sides. And you can see where you want it to sit flat against the caliper body, and there's a groove in that piston that you want the other end of it to sit inside of. And then it's just a matter of getting this ring to sit in there where it belongs. So that side's done. I probably didn't need to push this piston in this far. Let's see if I can get her out a little bit. Nice thing is, if the piston's all the way in, you don't have as much air when you first go to fill the system and bleed it. But putting these boots on here might be a little easier with the piston extended. But that actually went on real easy. And the ring. Okay, that ought to do it. I'm not a professional, guys. I do this as a hobby. I'm not the authority on this. Don't take what I'm doing here as the proper way to do it. This is the way I do it. So we've got our two halves. Now this rubber seal goes here. It's real important. All the brake fluid pressure comes in and needs to transfer from the one half of the caliper to the other. So it's got to be fluid tight. We've got our two bolts here to put them together. Should have grabbed the right tool here to get this done. I did, by the way, bake these caliper pieces to cure the paint. From what I understand, caliper paint is not cured until it gets real hot. So once it's cured, and don't tell the wife, I've done it in our oven, which kind of smells the kitchen up for a few hours, but it clears and there's no sign of it by the end of the day. I've also used my gas grill out in the yard on a low heat. Both of them have seemed to work just fine for my needs. So anyway, the paint has been cured, and pretty confident in its durability when I get the bike hooked up, get all the hydraulics connected, the new lines, and fill it up with .3. So here we have the caliper assembled. The brake pads slide in from the top, and the shims have an arrow showing the direction. This is the left side of the bike pointing forward, so the arrow is going to point forward. And as just happened, they'll like to pass right through it. But that's where the brake pads will sit. I'm at kind of an awkward angle. So the pads are going to go in like that. And then we've got these 2 pins that are going to hold the pads in place, along with this, it's basically a spring steel, and it holds the pads in place. I believe it helps prevent them from vibrating and causing excessive noise. And the way these go in is through, there's 2 holes here, and here. So the trick is you almost need 3 hands to get everything lined up. But there's the holes in the caliper line up with the holes through the brake pads. And then there are some small holes on the opposite side that the ends of those pins will sit. So you also need to get the spring in place. So as you can see, it's kind of a 3-handed operation. And you also need the brake pads separated so the spring can get between them. So let's see if I can do this without everything falling apart. And this shows you that I am indeed an amateur, because the spring needs to go in these holes in the brake pads before it drops down into the caliper. So let's do this. So that's the way they go. These pins have a tapered end. That's the end that goes in first. And the neat part of the design is this smaller diameter section, the spring grabs it, and that's what keeps the pins from coming out. So pretty slick, whoever came up with that. Sorry about the camera angle. I don't have the 3 hands that are required to do this. Okay, I see what I did wrong. This lip on the spring needs to be under this pin, and I missed it. So let's back it out, get that one in there again. There we go. Now it's under spring tension. There we go. Now the shim is a little bit out of position on this bottom one. Let's see if I can pull it up. That shim, there's a hole that pin should go through, and I noticed the hole was sort of broken off on the corner. So I believe that's why it's fighting me a little. Plus, I'm an amateur. So I think a good shim would make a nice difference here. It would ensure that this thing doesn't drop in like this one is doing. Okay, now we got it. So the brake pads are in. You can see them here. Pins are in. The spring is captured under the two indents in those pins. And this cover, there's two little slots here, and the cover has these hooks. It simply goes like this. Kind of neat. There's these new brake pads will probably have a better red mark on the ends, these little ears. Kind of gives you an idea of how far apart the pads are. Right now they're fully apart. It's just going to make it easier when I install them on the bike. But in actual use, they're going to be closer together. And I'll just snug this down. No reason to make it tight. Like I said, there's a plastic cover that goes over these to keep crud out of there. I'll see if I can source one. But that's really it. The caliper is assembled. Once I can get it on the bike, I'll probably check the torque on these too. So when it's floating around, it's kind of hard. But I do have new braided stainless steel brake lines to install, and I'll be doing the front calipers next, but I usually like to focus on one end at a time, make sure I don't mix up any parts, and things go smoothly. But that's it. This caliper is rebuilt. I think it looks pretty decent. I always try to retain these red dots that the factory sent these out with. When I've stripped these, the way they did these is the red was sprayed first. They put a sticker over it, and then they spray the rest black. Take the sticker off, and it exposes the red. I found some stickers online that are, and I don't remember the diameter offhand, but these stickers were basically exactly the diameter of the factory dot. So you can see I've used only maybe 4, because I've done 4 of these bikes. And when I do the front, same deal. I found some stickers that are the right diameter. I'll show you one of those calipers. When I strip these, the fronts, I'll spray it with red. I'll put a sticker on there. I'll spray the black, take the sticker off, and try to replicate the factory look. I think it looks pretty slick rather than just going solid black. So there you have it. Don't know if anyone likes these things. I know this is probably not much for an experienced mechanic, but for an amateur like me, I kind of like these little videos with something that might help. So I will update you when I get to those front calipers.